Hey, it's Central Valley Business. I'm your host, Steve Walling. My guest for this segment is Bill Protzmann. He is an author, and he's got a really, I'm really digging on the book that he's got. Excuse the old language, but anyway, it's More Than Human, The Value of Cultivating the Human Spirit in Your Organization. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Steve. And what's wrong with that old language? I love the 60s.
It just slipped out. I don't know, one of those gray cells popped or snapped or something. That's it.
Man.
But anyway, listen. Before we came on, I was asking about your history, how this book came about, and why don't you share that with our audience?
Well, sure. I'm a volunteer, and I do a lot of service with veterans, particularly at-risk ones. So homeless veterans, addicted, folks recovering, folks looking for careers in transition. And I'm part of a coalition here in San Diego, and the coalition decided to stand up a little group and think about the spiritual aspects of what it means to serve in the military. And the kinds of moral injury was a big term we were using. Moral injury, where you have to do things that may not jive with your belief system. There's another word for you. And the group thought about that, came up with an outline for how we wanted to describe a kind of handbook for what it meant to operate yourself or your business in a way that tied into the human spirit of wanting to do the right thing and being joyous and, instead of being scared and angry all the time. And I think we did a good job with the outline, and the group disbanded, and the coalition is still there, but our committee disbanded. And I thought, hey, this is probably a pretty good idea. I'm going to write this thing, and let's see where it goes. And like most projects of this kind, something inside kind of takes over and gets you to a place where you go, hey, you know what? This knowledge was there. And more importantly, this knowledge isn't so much new as it is something that's self-evident. So, it just makes sense to laugh. It feels good to laugh, right? I'd much rather laugh than cry.
I would too.
And
so,
that's the book.
But you're addressing this to more than just veterans. When you talk about the human spirit in your organization, you're talking about any kind of organization, aren't you?
It got big in a hurry, Steve. From families right on up to multinational corporations. And the thing that triggered it for me was reading a little study that got done in the late 2015, early 2016. And the study found that in businesses, people who act in a way that comes from the human spirit generally attract other people who act in that way as well. In fact, organizations that act in that way, sort of culturally, attract other organizations that would prefer to work with them versus competitors that don't act in the same way. So there's sort of a wave that's pulling people in a place that says, hey, engagement's great if you love your job and you love your work, you love the people around you. Yeah, well, let's do that. And let's work with more people who are like that. So, if you will, all I had to do was document that and blow it out in a book of how-to, and we got More Than Human.
How long's your book been out, Bill?
I launched it in June, and then went back and did sort of like a Amazon launch just a couple of weeks ago. On the day of the eclipse, it blew me away, Steve. On the day of the eclipse, that little book went to #1 in two completely opposite categories. It went up to #1 in spirituality, particularly in personal success, and it went up to #1 in business and organizational development. And I had kind of intended that, but I didn't know how it was going to play. So to see it in real life, it made me grateful to have been a part of the project is what it did, because now we have this information and people can grab it and read it and use it.
In the book, besides describing the situation, you provide a lot of information for individuals and for organizations on how to implement this. What would you say for like an organization? What would be their primary goal in the initiation of bringing this into their business?
I'd like to use the word surprise for that, because there's things that are working. Servant leadership is an amazing thing that works really well for managers and leaders to be able to say, hey, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to empower my people. That's working great. Values-based judgment is a great one where we say, what's the right thing to do? But I think if it goes deeper than that, and you get to the point where you can surprise people by acting in a way that is a best practice that might be totally different from how you're used to acting as a person or organization, that really changes things. I'll give you an example, because I'm terrible at humor myself. Put me in front of an audience and I can crack some good jokes, but on the one-to-one in business, I'm out of my depth, right? But if I can figure out a way to find the humor, or maybe the irony is a better word, in a situation that looks stuck, sometimes that's enough to unlock that situation and make the team move forward just a little bit more than grinding away at the hard, doing it the hard way used to be. Good example.
What kind of feedback are you getting, Bill?
Oh, it's amazing. I see feedback in two different ways. One is from middle managers and CEOs who say, gosh, we need this. It's time. Somebody needed to get down in the weeds here and figure out how to do things sort of extra belief system, Steve. So by that I mean, if you're good at humor, it doesn't matter what religion you're part of, right? You can light up a room. Some of the funniest comics out there are people you never would have thought, could tell those jokes. The Chinese guy that's doing a great job here, Aziz Ansari, has some amazing things to say, and he's happy and proud of his Muslim heritage. It's a beautiful thing in that sense. So it's not a religious experience so much as it is empowering people who want to act in a different way with tools that they can use. I mentioned humor. We all know about appreciation and things like that. Those are actually spiritual tools. They're way beyond,
Well, too, spirituality, unlike what a lot of people think, is not tied to any particular faith. As a matter of fact, you can be totally disassociated with any kind of faith-based belief at all and still be a very spiritual person. And when people make that connection, my belief anyway, the things that happen within them, the empowering realization that takes place is awesome. And I really like the concept and the idea of what it is that you've brought forth in this book. And truth be told, the things you're talking about, those aren't standard business practices. I mean, those are the things that people particularly don't expect to deal with when they're dealing with organizations. I mean, it's got to be a whole paradigm shift for these people that incorporate that in a good way.
Yes. Have you ever called technical support?
Yeah.
In my IT business, I was that guy, right? I was the guy people were calling with a problem. And so I have a lot of experience on both sides of that equation. But there are times where you call somebody, I had this, it was causing me angst. And finally I got a guy on the phone, and he had some magic. There was something about his voice, something about what he said. He wanted to make me a part of the solution. And it was so different, Steve, from what I have expected from technical support, like 99% of the time, that it changed everything. It just took all the piss out of my argument, right? And I just had to go in there and say, okay, so we are going to fix this together, aren't we, It left me feeling so great. So that's a great example of how it works. And your observation is right on the money. As I believe that guy was over in India, he might have been a Sikh. Who knows? But it wasn't about that. It was about how can we cooperate? How can we collaborate?
Yeah, that's a great deal. I'm going to have to get a copy of your book, my friend. It sounds really good. Okay, I'm assuming it's available on Amazon, seeing as how it went to #1.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know. All the websites. You can find it through my website, billprotzmann.com, or Google for Amazon More Than Human. It'll take you to the page where you can purchase the book, or reach out to me. If you want to know more, I'm here to talk about it too. So glad to do that.
Social media like Facebook or any of that stuff?
Oh, you bet. It's all out there.
So you can be found
everywhere.
We'll know where you're at,
yes,
and we can come knock on your door. Excellent.
It's true. It's hard to hide in this world anymore.
Well, that's great. Bill, I like the concept. I like what I'm hearing. And you have you put out a great product. And I'm looking forward to seeing more from you in the future.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate your time taking it with me on this amazing Saturday afternoon.
Take care, Bill. Thanks for being on the show.
All
right.
You're welcome.
We'll see you when we come back.